What's good, everybody on YouTube? This is your boy Akil McLeod back with another video, and today I'm going to talk about 3 common mistakes that most beginner sellers make on eBay. Now, I usually make content about Poshmark, but I haven't made some eBay content for you guys in a while. So if you enjoy this type of eBay content, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, y'all, so number 1, the first most common mistake that a lot of beginner sellers make on eBay is that they just guess the prices. They might go ahead and pick up something from the thrift store, or maybe even pick something up from Ross or Marshalls, and they'll see the retail price and they'll either price it somewhere close to the retail price, or they'll price it for retail. And that's a huge mistake, because usually the retail price, if you translate that price to online sales, the online sale is usually a lot lower than that retail price. So that's something that a lot of people, they completely just blow it when it comes to that. And for me, the easiest way to see, just kind of get a better way of pricing your items, I usually just check the comps. And I always say that in my videos, but I don't always usually break it down. So in this video, I'll just go in a little more depth into how I actually price some of my stuff out. So the way I base my prices for eBay is that I'll basically just insert the name of the item, whatever it may be. For this example, I'll put in a pair of shoes, and I'll first check the actual listings, what other people are pricing their items for, just to give me a better understanding. But to really price it even better, I'll also go into the filters, and then I'll check the completed and sold listings, and from there, then I'll be able to see what the item was actually being sold for in the last 90 days. Now, this gives you a much better perspective on what the item is actually selling for, only because the market constantly fluctuates. Sometimes the market might completely change within a matter of days. So sometimes you might see an item that was maybe $150 2 months ago, but now it's only selling online for $100. So you really just want to pay attention to the most recent sales, and eBay does a good job of only showing you the previous 90 days, but for me, I pay attention closer to that last 30 days just so I can get a better gauge of what to price my item. But you also want to make sure when you're pricing items on eBay that you're staying on top of it, because the market changes constantly. You're gonna see a lot of people, drop their prices super low, and sometimes if an item gets limited and it becomes rare, the price might shoot up. So you always want to just stay on top of all your items. Make sure that you're going into your listings and revising them as often as possible, just so that your pricing remains competitive within the market. Because if you don't price your items high enough, sometimes people may think that your item is fake, or it might have a problem. And if you price your items too high, it'll never sell. So it's just super important to stay on top of those type of things. Alright, y'all, as I'm editing this video, I almost forgot to mention one thing that's super important when you're checking for comps, especially on eBay, is that especially for shoes and clothing, the size can definitely affect the price of certain items. Now, for clothing, I always say larger sizes always sell a little better. So sometimes if I find a size XL, double XL, maybe even a triple XL, I usually will price those items a lot higher than I would price a size small shirt or a size medium shirt, only because the market really just dictates that, larger sizes sell for more money. So that's definitely something to consider. And also when it comes to shoes, I know sometimes you might even want to check StockX, because sometimes depending on the pricing, sometimes a size 8 might not sell for as much money as a size 9.5, and maybe a size 10.5 might sell way less than a size 9. So that's definitely something to consider anytime you're pricing items on eBay. You might want to check other platforms as well, just to get a better feel of how to price your items, because sizing definitely is a huge factor when pricing items. Now, another common mistake that I see on eBay, and I see this on Poshmark as well, is that sometimes people just don't use enough lighting with their photos. And I've even seen some people that they do a flat lay photo and they'll even have their feet in the photos. Now, this is just really tacky, and it just looks really unprofessional. So a quick and easy way to kind of separate yourself from making yourself look like a novice, even if you are, you can easily just take your photos in a blank clear space. It doesn't necessarily have to be a white background, but just something non-distracting. And you can even do that on the floor, because that's how I take a lot of my flat lay pictures as well, and it just makes your item look a lot more professional. And you can even ask for a little more money sometimes on certain items if your items are well photographed. I've seen some people sell certain items with terrible photos, and because the photos were terrible, they weren't able to demand a high price point. And I've heard several other sellers say this as well. Sometimes they might even buy an item online because the photos were terrible, and then they'll flip it for more money on a different platform. So trust me, you don't want to be a victim to that, even though sometimes I do it myself, but you don't want to be a victim to that. Just make sure you're taking high quality photos, make sure that they're well lit in a non-distracting background, and you're taking several photos, because unlike unlike Poshmark, you can take 12 photos on eBay, and I'm not going to say you necessarily want to use all 12 photos, but since you do have a little more wiggle room and you can add more photos on eBay, go ahead and add as many as you think is necessary, just so that the buyer can see exactly what they're buying. Now, number 3 on the list, and this kind of goes 2 ways as well. I've seen people even get negative feedback for this, so this is super important. And when you get a message on eBay, a lot of people, depending on what the message might be, some people simply just ignore it, or they take way too long to respond. And I've seen several people get negative feedback for, just being non-responsive or taking a very long time to ship items out. When it comes to making sales online, you always want to just be really courteous to the buyer, and if they do have a question, you want to get back to them as fast as possible. Now, I'm not going to say to stay glued to your phone and just answer questions all day long, but you at least want to get back to people within at least 24 hours. And some people might say 24 hours is still too long, but you at least want to get back to buyers in a reasonable amount of time. That way you can eventually make that sale, because sometimes the buyer just wants to know if you're going to be responsive enough to answer some of their questions, and they might be really interested, but they might just have one really important question that can help seal the deal. So you definitely just want to be as responsive as possible, and that also goes in terms of shipping out items as well. I see some people, they might have priority shipping as an option on eBay, or they may even have economy shipping as an option as well, and they might take 3 and 4, sometimes even 5-6 days before they actually ship it out. And for me, that can you can easily lose a sale if you take too long to ship an item out, and that can definitely be an easy way to receive neutral or negative feedback. Now, neutral feedback doesn't necessarily damage your account, but if you get a ton of negative feedback within a certain amount of time, you can definitely lose your status, and you can even have to end up paying higher fees on eBay as well. So that's definitely something to consider whenever it is that you're selling things on eBay. You want to make sure that you're super responsive and you're getting your items out to that buyer as soon as possible. Now, before I get out of here, I actually have another tip for you guys, and this is kind of a bonus because I've spoke about this in the past, but those of us that started out on eBay, I know for me, when I first started out, I didn't actually have a printer, and for me that was definitely a very, very bad move, because I used to spend a lot of time and just waste a lot of time standing in lines at post offices. Now, I actually used the Dymo for Excel, and I did a complete review on there, so I'll put that in the description for you guys, just in case you're thinking about getting a Dymo for Excel. I gave my honest review on that. But just having a printer, any type of printer, it really doesn't matter, would help you save a ton of time and a ton of money. Mainly because if you print your items out, if you print your shipping labels out through eBay, you actually will get somewhat of a discount. Sometimes it's as high as 25% compared to just paying for postage at the actual post office. So that can really help change your business completely. That way you won't have to spend sometimes a half an hour standing in line, and you also can save some money on shipping as well. Now, there's tons of other ways to save money online, especially when it comes to shipping, but I'll probably do a separate video on that later. But for me, when I first started out, I used to just pack up all my items and then actually pay for them at the post office. Then later on, I would get home and update the tracking information later. But sometimes you might end up losing the receipt. Sometimes you forget to update the tracking information. But once you do it through eBay, they automatically send out that information to the buyer, so you don't even need to go back and hold on to any receipts or anything like that. It just kind of streamlines the whole process for you. So definitely keep that in mind if you're brand new to eBay, or if you're already selling on Poshmark and you're considering going on to eBay. Alright, y'all, that's all I got for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed that one, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And if there's any mistakes that I may have forgotten, drop that in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
For the winner, cause you felt like you was losing, only for the winner. Move just to keep from cooling, like only for the winner, only for the winner, only for the winner. Boy, my heart is cold, and I'm too cool to sweat it. I should've never offered it. I'm tight and now I'm off this shit.